Greetings,
And then
post.
again in verse 17.
Yeah, greetings, poster
Oh, yep.
coaster. Go ahead.
Poster coaster.
Poster coaster.
Yep.
You can go ahead, Supernova.
What's
I
up?
was just giving greetings.
Well, just to give Poster Coaster, we're talking about the Old and New Covenants, and I'm making the claim that the Old Law, the Ten Commandments, um, is to be kept with the Old Testament, and that under this New Testament, we have a new law, a new commandment that believers are to follow, and that yeah, and that's basically where we're at. And I was just reading the new law. Actually, the new law is found in the Gospel of John, chapter 13, verse 34, and then also in John 15, verse 12, and then also in 17. I think you'd probably both be right. Okay, because I'm saying that's the only law, and then Maul, you just said that's not the only law. That the Ten Commandments would then be attached to that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Now, Poster Coaster, I don't think we can both be right. I think it's one or the other. Either the Ten Commandments are attached and the old law is attached, and we as New Testament believers should consider that and practice it, or not. And I'm just putting you on the spot, and I know you just kind of got into this conversation, so I won't put you on the spot. You won't get put on the spot quite yet. There might not be any spots. I don't know.
All good. I just plan to kind of listen mostly anyways, but you're probably both kind of right. It's one of those, like, unspoken things that, like, you're probably right, Nova, in the sense that they shouldn't follow the Old Testament rules. Then there's, like, the other argument, which is, like, why not? Like, they're good rules, and we don't need to, like, fight against them. Do you get that, too?
I get that, and I think that is very practical in like a civil sense. Like if we're talking about cities and kind of like civil codes or whatnot, I think those are very practical, and we can certainly handle disputes about that. I guess what I mainly is concerning with is like when it comes to like teachings from the pulpit, particularly, or what the Christian doctrine is. Obviously, the forgiveness of sins is a very powerful message of the gospel that Christ has the power to forgive sins. And
question just for clarity. What sect of Christianity do you follow?
I definitely consider myself a Protestant, but I really just like the term Christian. I really don't like to put too much label on that. I know there's a lot of different nuance. I recognize that the church is scattered in a sense right now by God's, and I would even say by God's will. And we're coming back together. I really love Ephesians 4, that we are building up to this perfect man, as it says. We're building up to this perfect man, so we are unifying. And I think this one particular issue when it comes to the law, and actually, this is exactly what it says in Ephesians 4, that the wall acts like as a divider. And I think this is one thing that is acting like a divider in the Christian world, in the Christian sects, is that it's, well, which laws do we keep? Which laws do we not keep? What does that law mean? Da 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 da. And I think we kind of lose the essence of what Christ was really teaching. And so to get back on that, I think to take Occam's razor, just to really take the text of the scriptures, we really got to understand that Christ has ushered in this new covenant, which is established on a new law.
So, I'm not Christian myself, but I take really interesting perspectives on this, and find it just you're not wrong that this is probably the mistake. I guess the argument would become like would go to something like this: like, if you're going to fight against the Ten Commandments, should you also be fighting against, let's say, like LGBT? Do you get that, and I'm not trying to put this as an argument, but like you at least understand that if we're gonna read into certain things and pick and choose, we either have to do none of them or all of them. You kind of like it's a really fucked up consideration. That's all.
And I'm not sure if I completely agree with that notion, because obviously there is forgiveness, right? Sin is forgiven. That is the message of the gospel. But I think people want to put parameters around that about when and how that's done exactly. And this is a good discussion to have, but I think people want to live their best lives, right? They want to do what's good for them. So
I also don't know, just in terms of the parallels to like orthodoxy. I would imagine that within orthodoxy they're trying to do very little readings, and they've tried to stick to some order of process, right? Whereas a lot of other sects in Christianity seem to have a very less safe host to what they're willing to include. So at least to me, I don't know about this at all, Orthodox seems to have the right way to do things, like the right process at least.
Yeah, so so, and I know I'm stuttering a lot. I really want to answer your question, but I want to get my words correct. Because I agree that marriage is sacred. I definitely agree with that. People, our bodies are a temple. Absolutely. Procreation is a sacred thing. All that good stuff. I completely agree with all that stuff. I think why people reject fundamentalism is because it really becomes you almost become to feel boxed in by the laws, the parameters. You know what I mean? When really Christ liberates. When really we should be feeling that liberation of Christ. Making these decisions for myself. That should be a liberating thing. And so I guess that's why I guess this is why forgiveness is such a big thing, because people are going to mess up, whether that be they're actually committing acts of adultery or they're doing it maybe just internally in their body or something like that. Like we as people, like we struggle with the flesh, and how are we going to get over that? How are we going to get over the flesh and overcome sin, our sinful nature? It's going to be through the forgiveness and the patience that Christ has demonstrated. But that is to say that yes, there will be mess ups and there will be that, but we are headed towards that perfection.
I guess my counter argument has always been, as much as the extreme position could seem restrictive, from an outsider's perspective, one issue I had with religion always was that it was very selective. It didn't make sense to me how you could have a religion like Christianity, for example, where you could like pick and choose and buffet what you want. Like that never fucking made any sense to me too.
That's what I think is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I've been doing a lot of analysis on this because I've never been religious at all, and yet if I were to be Christian, I would want to follow the right rules. Does that kind of make sense? Like, if you're gonna do it, why fuck around with it? Is that a safe way to put it?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I took that very similar stance when I first came to Christianity too. Yes.
It's actually I'll even admit, like one of my biggest hesitations is I know I'm really lazy and not good at committing to things. So like I don't want to just go in and half-ass it and then quit 2 weeks in. Like that's such a stupid thing to do too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to make it worthwhile, right?
Well, and not even make it like worthwhile for myself, but like I know a lot of people will like try it for 6 months and then think that they didn't get anything out of it and then turn negative from that too. Like that's fucking dangerous.
Yeah. Right.
And so what I'm doing here, actually, I recently joined this Discord and I'm studying people's blockades to new information, and I find it happening a lot in religion.
I gotcha.
They've built up a negative experience or a negative thinking about religion or a positive experience about something else. And then when you go to speak to them about religion, it's like impossible and it's very controversial.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, you know, are you saying like even regardless of it, if it's well, I mean, we're predominantly Christian, but yeah, just the religious question. I mean, it fundamentally like resonates with everybody.
Yeah, no, I'm studying like different elements of this because I find it very fascinating. Like I almost think I should write something or like write a book about this or study it because it would actually I think it would be something that like people would want to learn about because I find that we also it's twofold where like our generation has probably the easiest life, so you have like no real need to even search for religion until you're 25, 30.
Depends on your
You know,
upbringing.
and
Depends on
you're
your
go ahead, Mal.
upbringing.
Well, I say it in this sense, Mal. A lot of people in the West, let's say, are living really easy lives, and they get exposed to like lots of fun fantasies and dress up and Star Wars and space and things like this. And it's easier to find comfort and connection to those things because they haven't had lots of like life or death or tough experiences. And that's why you wouldn't have to seek out religion.
Yeah, it depends on
I
their
see what you're
upbringing.
saying.
Like a lot of people, uh, I've heard of a lot of people that have been brought up, in religion, in the church. So it just depends on, your family background or your type of your social circle. From when you're young and then
Even
into
even
adult life.
sorry, even this is another factor of this which I'm trying to study, which is like this unique, let's call it a Christian kid that got almost forced into Christianity when he was young, but also was learning about Star Wars, and he thought Star Wars was way cooler.
Do you believe people are indoctrinated, as in the sense of they're just told something like anything else that they may be told and just believe it?
Okay, now this is another part completely which I haven't fully figured out, which I find interesting, but I think sometimes maybe um, not being properly taught the religion can have a negative effect on you too.
Say that again.
Not I want to say not being effectively taught how like about the religion and how it works. And sometimes people will learn like chapter 10 before learning chapter 1, and it fucks up their understanding of religion as well.
Well, if they're being taught something, they have to. If they don't understand something, hopefully that teacher, and not all people are the same, but that teacher will extend a class or questions and answers to try to get understanding.
No, and you're not wrong. I just find, um, by the way, this is something I'm trying to fully map out. Um, there's sometimes I find Christians who now reject their faith because they learnt about some element of God before understanding the morality elements of God and things like this.
Yeah, you're talking about people that that have trouble understanding something and then they start questioning everything.
Yeah, but so I find like this is something I'm watching it on Discord where like people who now reject the faith, they're like, well, I grew up Christian and I learned that God like is supposed to come down to the earth and save all the drowning children, and you're like, that wasn't taught in chapter 1, man. So how did you fuck that up?
Right.
It definitely goes.
He said.
It definitely goes back to upbringing. and the way and how people are taught. And, people should, the kids are very vulnerable, to their guardians, their parents, and they're gonna follow that lead. But at some point, people do bear responsibility for their own educations and stuff like that. But yeah, upbringing does play a huge influence in how people think. Whether people want to accept it or reject it is maybe that's what you're getting into, like why people accept or reject, the things that they've been brought up with or whatever. That would be also really interesting.
Let me maybe circle this back and share one last thing. I was raised Jewish.
Nice.
It's not necessarily that I think I'm right in this sense. I think you need to have an understanding, and by the way, this is to tie it all back to what you started with. I think you need to have an understanding of Genesis, a really good understanding of Genesis before you learn the other things. I find in Christian teachings, they teach the other things before Genesis, and it can kind of cloud our understanding.
So what's in, like, you mean like just like what's in Genesis particularly that should be taught?
Just a good established understanding that like God is the creator, he gave us morality, he gave us free will, and this is the story of like how those are the gifts of God.
And you're the one who asked about the LGBTQ, right?
So I brought it up only because the Catholic Church just did a unique announcement recently. So it's just a crazy concept relative to what you were saying, where it's like, I think you can't, as a Christian, deny Genesis, and if you deny Genesis, that's dangerous. And then if you deny the Ten Commandments, there's no real value to doing so, so don't really pick that fight. Then at the same time, the Catholic Church is picking other fights where they're passing legislation to say gay marriage is okay. So it's like, which battle do you want to fight as well, too? That's all. Religion is pretty scattered right now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I didn't see that about the Catholic Church.
Yes, and that, by the way, that it blew my mind when I learned that news. So it's why I bring it up in discussions now, because it's very like, no matter your position, you've got to at least ponder about that one.
Well, the Catholic organization, they take a lot of unbiblical positions, don't they?
Yeah,
So I guess I would expect that from them. That's not really that's not really that's really to be expected.
No.
the way, like if you look up the news too, you'll both be shocked. Like they passed in the Vatican that they're gonna now do gay marriages. It's like what the fuck? I'm not even religious, guys, so even to me it was what the fuck.
Wow. Yeah, the Vatican. There's that's and the Pope. I think I told you, like, I'm Protestant. I don't like I have family members who are Catholic. I was actually baptized Catholic when I was a child, but coming of age and doing my own studies and stuff, I deeply agree with Martin Luther and kind of like his theses and like breaking, which ultimately broke from the Catholic Church and all that stuff. He raises this point that I think we're talking about as far as the law, how it's been fulfilled and how we should be following a new law.
Know enough about religion to get into that, but
But to kind of go back to your LGBTQ thing, which is a really interesting thing, because I think it's very, it requires almost like a nuanced position because obviously you want to make people like I would like to keep the relationship of a man and a woman, the sanctity of marriage, keep that holy, right? As far as like from the church, like people want to make contracts. People are free to make contracts with each other. But just speaking purely from like a religious perspective, like yeah, definitely keep the institution of marriage holy. But that's not to say like to, you know, say turn and burn, right? It's really to meet, you know, everybody like within that community who is committing adultery, which, like, let's just be real, that's kind of like what it is. But, you know, to meet that with love and grace, forgiveness, kindness, you know, whatever and there's different, you know, relationships, you know, however the relationship may go. But um, that's what I feel like the position of the Christian church would be, is like, no, like, we hold this institution to be sacred and holy. We understand that everybody, you know, struggles with the flesh, and, you know, we're all walking our own salvation. How would you feel about a position like that, Maul?
Oh, go ahead, Paul. They're here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I'm interested in Maul's perspective um, because
Not here. I might share something. I'll even share it. So 10 years ago, I'm Canadian. Used to be a Justin Trudeau fan. If you told me gays want to go do their own thing, I wouldn't give a shit. Seeing 10 years later, they're now in the church taking away the sanctity of marriage. Go, holy fuck, what just happened?
right, yeah,
Right. And that's 10 years. 10 years. Because, like, literally, this was 10 years ago, guys, where, like, Obama was doing it in the States and Trudeau was doing it in Canada. It happened in 10 years. And somehow we managed to go from, like, maybe we'll consider the marriages to kind of be the same to, like, no, now the church is okay with it. That's fucked up. That just, from an outsider seeing that, and that's like, whoa.
yeah.
Well, when you say church, you got to keep in mind it's probably the false church, not the true church. So it would make sense in a false church.
I get
You
that,
gotta
but I
make
just meant
you gotta make the
the
distinctions.
reach of is insane. Reach of that is insane, guys. You know that.
I think the scripture teaches about that, doesn't it, Supernova? Like when you read this in scripture, you'll expect this kind of stuff.
I kind of got lost track there. What expect what?
Like what he's talking about, all of this stuff that's happening in the all the heretical stuff going on. I think the scriptures teach about these kind of things are going to be happening.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, also too, I really feel like there's a lot of confusion regarding around the law because, you know, this is why I was really interested in kind of your question, because a lot of, or your stance on this, because a lot of people who really hold on to the law, like obviously like man and a woman, right? And I want to clarify my last position that, you know, that's not to like condone, like I wouldn't like promote, you know, gay marriage or like support that in any way. It would just be like, hey, it's forgiven. It is sin, to recognize it as sin, but, you know, the institution of marriage, but just to recognize that we all are, it's just a different stance on how to address the sin, right? Coming at it from that patience, long suffering, grace that Jesus taught, rather than, you know, the law where it's like, no, this is it, and, you know, you're guilty of death, or you're guilty of, you know, maybe of just like a jail sentence or something like that. I think oftentimes that's what people reject, you know. So I think people have this hard time where it's like, yeah, maybe it's not the best or whatever, but I don't think people should be like dying or going to jail for it either. And really, if it's kind of like, yeah, if it's within your own privacy or whatever, you know, let them work it out with God, so to speak. I think that's kind of really where the lines get drawn.
Let me ask you this, Supernova. I think you believe that the scripture is against same sex marriage. Is that right?
Hello?
Did you hear me? Did you hear my question, Supernova?
I can hear you. I think Noah's gone now.
Hello?
Yeah,
Noma,
we can hear you.
Hello.
you hear Mal?
Well, what happened? Time's up.
By the way, so I'll even answer quickly while he's figuring his shit out. Mal, I find even just the fact that he calls it gay marriage needs to be changed a little bit, just because it shouldn't be the same word. For example, I have no problem with gay people having like a civil union, for example, but then you can't um, take away from the sanctity of marriage, right? That's kind of the argument.
Yeah, I think I got cut out there for a bit.
Yeah, did you get my question?
No, I didn't.
Do you do you believe that the scripture does not support or teaches against same-sex marriage? Is that right?
It doesn't go for or against.
You say it doesn't. It's not for it or against it.
Well, I mean, there's the scripture in Romans 2, or is it Romans 1? Um, changing the truth of God to a lie, worship and served. Yeah, and then affection is the natural use of women. So there's that one that I'm aware of.
But you're saying, I think your initial statement was it's not for it or against same-sex marriage.
Yeah, that's not really what it's about, I don't think.
Okay, I'll leave that there. It doesn't seem like you're too sure.
Well, I mean, the gospel, the scriptures are about Christ. I mean, the Bible is not really about sexuality.
Okay, so somebody, a Christian, you can call them a Christian. When it comes time to make that decision if this is against God or not, how would they decide? That person decide.
Just by going with the scriptures, I guess. Yeah, by going with the scriptures.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
No, I mean, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, this person don't know. This-
I wasn't trying to make this a talk like that. It was an interesting parallel. That's all.
Well, I think kind of what we're getting at is, your own walk with Christ. And this is why. Well, anyways, I'm about to go off on a huge tangent right now. But anyways, um, no, I mean, obviously, like when it comes to when you look at the law, it says don't commit adultery. It reiterates that in Acts. The whole thing is to just kind of like keep yourself right and like right for marriage. So that would be the whole thing, would be to go for marriage. So yeah, that would be the teaching. But if you're getting to like, how should like the LG how should that community be handled in the sense, I think they should be just have yeah, they should be given the grace and patience and love and all like that too.
He's establishing his own righteousness. That's what the scripture speaks about.
Non-linear.
Yo, what's up?
Any thoughts?
About what? I didn't hear that part.
Anything you've
I
heard?
something about religion. What's up?
Anything you've heard so far?
About I only heard something. I know it's about God. That's about it. It's a little like I was typing into ChatGPT. So can you give me a quick synopsis?
I jumped in late. They were already in something.
Ah, well, I would all I know is when it comes to religion, God specifically, I think it's good to take the teachings, but I think for any individual on earth to claim that they have like I have the answer to God due to some teachings that was passed down upon them. Whether they have experience in their personal life is not relevant, because we know that mass psychosis and mass adoptions of any belief, same thing with the placebo effect. We know it's very, very real. That if somebody is convinced that something is real or conditioned that it's highly likely, 84% of the world is religious. So statistically speaking, everybody on average is going to, more than everybody, or more than half, is going to have a religious experience, because your brain literally programs you. Everyone's telling me religion exists, therefore I'm going to cope by placebo effect, creating a religious experience. These two, everything's connecting. Oh my God, God. And so what happens is your brain plays significant tricks on you. And I think most people who rely on conventional religion cannot think for themselves. And instead of actually looking into the reality of religion, spirituality, all these things, they just look to people who told them something, or biases. And then they will sit here and say, no, 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 I've studied it as an adult. And yes, maybe they have. But the thing is, if I go into study, for instance, new math concepts, but I know that math is the only language, and I know it's 100% true, it's a universal language, I cannot genuinely consider other arguments, because I think that math is right no matter what. I'll humor other arguments, other math systems, but I won't genuinely change my mind. Ask any mathematician, they will never tell you that you can change my mind, 2 plus 2 equals 7. No, they literally say no because it doesn't compute. Same thing when you tell a religious person, hey, here's some evidence. They will contort their bodies in every way that they can, because it's a bias. It's literally something that's ingrained in them. And that's my true opinion on religion. I think it's a foolish, perverted movement that really just captures the average person who can't think for themselves. And it's very unfortunate. Even people who do.
Interesting.
Do you ever-
I love
do you
to
ever-
hear it.
Do you ever act in that way yourself?
What do you mean by that?
Well,
You believe in things?
you were saying that that religious people will deny learning new information because they already have previous information. Do you think you ever do that yourself?
No, I operate from a fluid axiomatic basis. I don't have a single axiom that even my perception, I could know that I'm a brain in a vat. I leave every possibility open. I don't have a single belief system where I'm like, this is 100% true. I know it, because I think anyone that operates from that belief is truly, for lack of better terms, an idiot. And not an idiot, but just that's bad.
Is it possible that people who are religious are correct?
No, because whenever I've studied the universe, and
you realize you just contradicted yourself?
No,
yeah,
so
you literally just contradicted yourself.
I didn't finish
You're a
my point.
hypocrite.
Did you not let? I just said no, and then I was about to say my point, and then you're a hypocrite. I was about to say no, but yes. I was literally, so that's the fun. When you look at the highest forms of truth, they are contradictory by nature. And I was saying yes, but no. So what I'm saying is no is every single bit of empirical evidence that shows the structuring of a reality, to how cognition, yada yada, the belief systems of comparing Christianity, Allah, whoever you want to look at. If you look at that based off of the evidence presented in humanity, human condition, the universe, everything, it is statistically a 0% chance that the iterations in those Bible, they have too many. Even though I said contradictions are a highest form of truth, there's certain contradictions that aren't. Like, that car is blue and it's also not blue. There are certain contradictions that are blatantly just false, while others are a higher form of truth.
All
I
right.
think religion likes to play on the contradictions.
All right. So I got a question for non.
Yeah, it was because it was an important point.
I got a question for
you
non.
sound very upset over just
What?
like
I gave you a logical argument.
Show us on the
you
doll
gave me
where
a logical argument. You gave me a
Show us on the doll where religion touched
direct
you.
standpoint over.
No, that's how I
you
believe.
in your opinion. Okay, cool.
No, so what I'm saying is that no, I don't believe in my opinion. I believe in verified evidence, but I don't rely on convention. So I use them as a stepping stone.
So like what you're saying is like you believe in objective reality.
So objective reality has to exist, point blank, period, because one thing is true. So you know the argument or the statement, I think therefore I am, and everyone can go into that presupposes the no. The actual, it's an empty platitude, because the guy did not know enough about his own argument. He just said, I think, therefore I am, and ended at that. But when you really ask, what does I think, therefore I am mean? Okay, it means something is happening. What does something happening mean? That you have to be interacting, because in any of the laws of physics, anything we've ever studied, some things don't happen without there has to be some interaction. Literally, things don't just move without any interaction, because that is it's impossible for something to have something happen without some action. So what that means is the fact that I'm thinking, it doesn't mean I have access to all of objective reality. That would be foolish. But it does mean I am accessing one aspect of objective reality, because otherwise reactions, thinking wouldn't even happen. The full thought experiment has not been fleshed out.
So I got a question for non-linear. Do you believe that
Yes, sir.
all people in religions are indoctrinated?
So yes, it has to be a not well, no, not completely majority, if not. It's so the thing is I mean, it actually technically yes, because religion has to be something that has been pushed upon. So if you weren't like indoctrinated, what it means is you've been influenced, and if you've been influenced to join a religion, you would have created your own religion, or you would have had spirituality. People who say I believe in God, but I don't conform to religions, those are smart people. But people who sit here and say I rely on religions because I think they are telling me the truth, those are the people that I consider stupid. And that's why I said spirituality is fine, believing in God's fine. But if you believe in the iteration in the Bible, in their iteration, whether it's Allah, doesn't matter, Quran, you can look at everything, it doesn't matter. It's logically incohesive. It doesn't make any fucking sense, the things that it says. And people who say, no, it does, I said is the same argument as because you're biased, and like you just said, you're angry. You just proved my point, figure. Thank you. People get biased because I'm being logical.
I'm
If you
not
can
really.
tell. Regardless, you still got upset.
I didn't get upset. You sounded very upset. You started.
This is how I. This is just how I. This is just how I speak.
How did you learn about Christianity?
My mom, or not my mom, my grandma was Catholic, and so she. I learned about Catholicism and then a little bit about like Christianity, because I think Catholic was a little bit too much for me when she went to Catholic
Your
school.
grandmother.
Well, I'm saying that's where I initially learned my like, but I studied and looked into it, but it's not something that I.
Issue with that?
What do you mean?
Just curious. Do you
Like,
see
are
any
you
issue
saying?
with that? Yes or no?
Are you saying with the fact that my grandmother and mother influenced me? Yes, I see an issue with the fact that it could lead to cognitive, like some sort of disdain for the religion. Correct. I look at every framework, and like I said, I look at even my own biases. I look at, okay, am I addressing this from a bias because I grew up in Catholicism, therefore I'm going to reject it? And then I look at the facts and I say, okay, am I doing this out of a bias, emotional bias? Am I doing it logically? And then I present myself the arguments, and then I go.
Can you tell me? Okay, great monologue. Can you tell me about
That's not
the
a monologue,
story
I
of
was telling you.
Genesis?
It
What
was
it means?
monologuing.
Do you, buddy, the fact that you said every time I make a point, you say monologue without engaging. Why are you like? Why would I engage with you when you're literally just like you're being like? Come on, be better.
You know
than
the definition of monologuing.
Like, you literally just did exactly what I told you not to do. Are you that stupid? Like, I'm not to be rude, but are you really that stupid, figure? Like, I literally just said you don't do that, and you just did it. What is the definite? Like, come on, buddy.
What's bent
You
you
tell
at
us the
shape?
meaning of Genesis.
No, okay, hold up, Coaster. I want to know, like, genuinely, you seem angered and frustrated over somebody that's, like, clearly just stating
I'm
something.
not angry though. That's so. What I'm saying, figure,
You
is
sound ticked off. You sound upset over something that really doesn't need to consume.
okay, figure. So the way I speak, and like I have a, so I'm very up down. I have ADHD. So when you say that, like it's like sometimes my voice changes just because like I get excited, and then I go back to my normal voice. I get excited, I go back to my, that's ADHD. And you saying like you're upset, it's like, buddy, why are you like that? That is like projection. I don't care, buddy. I have ADHD.
Okay, so
what?
You don't care. All right. Well,
Like I'm not. I don't. Why would I care?
And I don't
Clearly.
really care. I
Yeah.
really don't care. That's the most like basic
That's fine.
excuse I've ever heard.
Wait, what's
like,
a basic excuse?
I have a problem, or I have something that like you're gonna have to fucking deal with.
No, that's not. That wasn't the. No, that it had nothing to do with the problem. I'm saying the reason, because your argument was your tone is changing. So I wasn't saying I have a problem, you have to deal with it. I'm saying my tone consistently changes due to ADHD. That was just a logical argument. It had nothing to do with you have to deal with it. No, I was explaining why your argument was invalid, and that's how I went about it. My voice changes because that's how I am. As you can tell, it changes so often just in simple sentences because it's ADHD, and maybe that's something I couldn't control better. And I agree. When I'm speaking, like in a public discourse, I usually do, and I'm a little bit more aware of it. But we're in Discord, so I'm a little less. I don't care as much, and maybe that's disrespectful to you. I could completely understand that. Like I said, I can understand every perspective. I'm not biased, but I was just pointing out the fact that you were going about this in a very idiotic way.
If you can understand every single perspective, what
Correct,
do
I
you
can.
want?
What do I want out of life?
No, what do you like? What are you seeking to get out of this?
So this is more of an engagement in just seeing how to convince people of things. Just really, it's testing myself. So I'm really seeing like, okay, religious people are one of the most difficult people on planet. Actually, it's pretty much impossible, like I said, because you guys go into arguments, not you, but like other people who are religious, regardless, go into arguments thinking that God exists as 2 plus 2 equals 4. So the whole reason I'm in here is literally they were talking about religion, and it's more of a fun challenge, and it's a mental exercise. It's interesting to see how humans engage, and even what you're saying, it's not. That actually quote it shows me that okay, maybe monologuing from time to time with people who are significantly lower in intelligence is not worth it because people are not willing. They'll just go, you're doing it again, monologue. I've learned you're teaching me a lot, so thank you. I'm using this as a science experiment. Like that is literally, if you want to know bare bones, that is what I'm using this for. It's teaching me how to interact with people because I'm about to publish my theory of everything soon, and I need to figure out how to properly communicate to the masses. So this is literally more of an experiment than anything, and you can say whatever you want. That's just what it is. Point blank period. It's an experiment. And so I'm doing different tones, I'm doing different tries. So I already have a good plan on how to engage with the public. But right now I'm testing different methods. I'm being a little bit more monologue, a little bit more, and usually I'm not this way. But I'm testing. This is how scientists test things. You use something, and then you see how the results pay back, and then you go forward in a different manner. That is literally how I navigate every single aspect of my entire life. I see what happens, add it to my frameworks to see, okay, should I shift my paradigms? Is this a good paradigm I'm engaging in? Is it better to be a little bit more soft? Because when I want to engage with people, usually I stroke their ego a little more. Like figure, if I wanted you to be on my side, I would actually play to the emotions, play to your room, probably would have engaged a little more and said, you know what, you're actually right. I never thought about it from that perspective. And then instantly, that makes most people say, holy shit, you're smart. So it's really just like if I wanted you guys to like me, I would engage completely differently. But that's not the point. Right now, I'm doing a mental exercise as opposed to just trying to be liked.
I
Is
guess.
that sufficient for you, figure? And by the way, just to let you know, I'm I think IQ tests are kind of foolish, but I am 160 unconclusive. So IQ tests at a certain point become very stupid, and I think they're really just measuring your skill set within a certain framework. It's not genuinely a good indicator because I think fluid axioms are more important than having just an axiom that you've memorized or a pattern that you're really sufficient at. I think being able to distinguish between multiple patterns and axioms across multiple fields and frameworks will quite literally change the way you perceive everything. And that's how geniuses integrate ideas that are different from everyone else. And like I said, I'm about to release a theory of everything in a few days, and you can read it. Like you're about to see. This is what a person who is legitimately considered the smartest man on earth. When I took an IQ test and an equivalency test, emotion, everything, they basically said it's completely inconclusive. We'd have to create new tests. You are quite literally an anomaly of anomalies, even amongst Albert Einstein. The problem with him, with his theory of everything, he was navigating from a mathematics perspective. His framework, when he was trying to plug in from black holes to everything, he's like, I want to find the theory of everything, but he was looking at it from a perspective of math. Yeah, and
Well,
so
that was a very loaded answer, but
correct.
just to keep it bare bones, I don't need to like you're overdoing it. That was like 3 minutes of you just going on.
Like I said, I'm testing monologue figure. I told you that's the. Did you not hear a single? I literally told you that was my point.
About your monologue, dude.
Then why did you keep
I
commenting
get
on it?
man.
Then why'd you comment on it
I just
again?
wanted to know the bare bones statement of like what you're seeking.
It's not bare
to,
bones,
like,
so my brain isn't bare bones. You're asking a genius how they think, and you're saying simplify it in a way, buddy. My brain doesn't work on a. I'm here because I have fun. I know, I get it. That's how your brain works. And if I'm communicating to the masses, yes, literally, I would say I'm thinking very complexly, and I'm really using this as a mental exercise. But I thought you were a little smarter than that, and I'm sorry, now I need to pull back again, figure, because you're not clearly, because you sat here and, you monologued again. That is a very clear indicator of a person who lacks sufficient thinking skills.
Look fucking stupid.
And I'm sorry, figure. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm inferior. You are superior. We all.
I'm superior in intellect, but I wouldn't say I'm superior point blank period.
Why don't you both just go get a fucking room with each other if you have so much sexual tension?
I was just giving him a description.
I'm serious. Like you two came into a room where people are having a conversation, then you just hijack the conversation, decide to fucking talk about how you want to suck each other's dicks for like 10 minutes. So. Go somewhere else.
Hey, Poster, I get what you're saying, but this is a public
dude,
place.
Stop talking. Poster Coaster,
Figure,
I apologize.
shut the fuck off a
if
little
that
bitch.
was how I came off. I wasn't
I
trying to.
figure you're
You
actually
guys were
cool.
having
I
proper
realize it's mostly
discussions.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I didn't understand that you guys were having
so
this and that
this
you
is
guys
what you
were completely
consider
unrelated.
appealing to the crowd. This is what a lot of people do when they're like they feel like they're intellectually inferior. They'll sit here and say, "You're actually cool, but this guy over here." And I get it. It's like when you feel like you're sad, your ego gets into play, and you start doing this. And I get it. It's funny because I'm literally calling it out point blank.
This guy didn't get loved by his mom when he was a
No,
child.
poster. The ironic, the irony is
Ah,
when people insult
this
like that
guy,
too. People don't
God.
insult unless they're upset. So I appreciate it, poster.
Mommy, did
Like I
mommy not
called you
tell
out,
you
and
you
then
were
you started
special
upsetting.
today? Mommy didn't
Poster.
tell you you were special today?
Poster, are you not? This is entertaining. I'll admit, like, thank you for like. I think I've gathered all that I can from this mental exercise, but I really appreciate it, Poster and Vigor.
Mental
Like
exercise.
the fact that you guys are coping so hard to a degree. Like I get it. Once you feel inferior in intellect, and that's something I notice the most about. When somebody feels very inferior in their intellect, they will use everything from insulting his image, insulting this, then piling on the masses. Because guess what? You guys relate more to emotional. So guess what you guys are doing? Hey, let's do emotional. Look at this weird guy. Look at these monologues. That is what very, very
I don't
stupid
care.
people do. Because if you notice, geniuses go against the masses. But the masses are influenced by discourse like that. So I appreciate the mental exercise, but I will now leave. It was a good time.
Okay,
I appreciate
good.
it.
Thank
Need to
God.
bring back mental.
And Scott, thank you for the friend request. I know that you seem smarter than them, and you understand it's people are very, very silly. And they love to cope and project.
I just I'm curious about your theory of everything, and so when you publish it, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I'll definitely send that. And it's so I verified it through like you can do simulations with a like AI systems currently, and you can compare models versus the current frameworks versus the new ones and
We need to
see
bring
what
back
it is.
mental asylums. We need to bring back mental asylums.
Yeah, I think we do need to bring back mental asylums.
We need to bring back mental asylums.
Mental asylums.
We need to bring back mental asylums. We need to bring back
But
mental asylums.
sorry, what was that last bit, Scott? I
We need to
forgot.
bring
Like,
back mental asylums.
I just said okay. That sounds good. Thanks.
okay, yeah. But I'll send you. It's very fascinating. Like, it's essentially I'll give you a small rundown. It combines, I mean, literally a theory of everything, and the main problem is too many people are operating with certain axioms and these frameworks as truths. Like, for instance, logic. That is the number one truth that people use. Like, you can explain everything with logic. Yes, but at the same time, no. Some things, to sit here and say everything can be explained with logic is actually fallacious. I mean, I'll explain
What
logic
the
with
heck
logic.
is
Yes, you
going
can
on
do
with
that,
these
but
people,
after a
man?
certain point, you get to
Check this
infinite
out.
recursive behavior within the universe. And so the problem is too many people are looking for a logical explanation at the beginning of the universe and everything. And while yes, logic is used to get to it and observe the data, that's not actually the best way to go about it. You have to certain things will never be measurable. Like imagine trying to measure a river as it's flowing and stagnant. You freeze a river and measure it while it's flowing at the same time. That is what scientists are currently doing with the universe. They're trying to measure something that is currently evolving. And so they're like, why are our measurements not fitting into an evolving system? That is quite literally because your measurements are not meant to evolve. Your measurements are static. Therefore, my theory of everything fills this gap. Like I'm so excited, and I'll show you Scott. And this is why you can tell these guys are sufficiently stupid because they're talking to like one of the smartest men on earth, and they're literally like, huh, let's cope and team up on him. He's so weird. It's like, come on, I get it, but like people who want to learn, like if I literally know the cure to cancer essentially, and I could give them anything they want. But the fact that they are literally just so foolish. Like for instance, I'll give you a very small short down for a cure to cancer. Current chemotherapies are more of a generalized approach. Well, we can create and manufacture with CRISPR and certain cells, we could create them in a chemotherapy that's more live and targeted. And what it does is instead of communicating the way normal cells do, because cancerous cells, the unfortunate thing is, when they communicate with one another, they basically hijack the fact that they're camouflaging. So instead of communicating a way a normal cell does, what you do is you create a chemotherapy that pokes every single cell in a person's body essentially, and based off of the reaction, not the chemicals, you're not communicating in a way it wants, you're communicating in a different way. And then you would essentially, and you see how dumb they left because they're like, fuck, this guy's actually so smart. Oh shit.
Hey, non-linear. I got a question for you.
Yeah, what's up, my man?
You mentioned about physics, I think earlier. Are you familiar or heard of? You probably have quantum immortality.
Yeah, I actually haven't heard too much about that because are you talking about like a conscious immortality?
Yes, it goes into about our consciousness when we supposedly die, because it's pretty much suggesting that death is an illusion and our consciousness just traverses through the multiple universes in this one timeline. When we come close to the end of this timeline, as we can call death, and another timeline, we are um,
What it
consciousness
do?
trend.
Yeah,
How's it
well,
going,
my
fellow
my
geniuses?
What's up?
Does anybody else here have an IQ of at least 140 here besides me?
I assume not. You must
Okay, all right, sorry. Continue.
But could you say that again, Maul? I didn't hear the last part of that.
Yeah, it's basically how our consciousness continues to never. It just continues on and on through the multiverses, through different timelines.
Okay, I'll come back.
But what were you saying? One more time. The consciousness is like constant
Yeah.
and going through like multiple universes, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it continues to
So
transfer. Yeah.
And well, I was saying my theory, like it's actually you're somewhat correct, and something that's interesting from ghost to poltergeist is it's actually most likely a subconscious manifestation because people who experience poltergeist events are most statistically it's more likely that they are emotionally distraught. So what this shows is our emotions, and even when we perceive data, we know that it can change the data based off of just looking at it on a quantum scale, the split space experiment. So what this means is literally our consciousness interacts with reality. So the fact that we are existing and interacting consistently with reality, there are some theories, especially because current scientific evidence shows that there are some people that know facts that they couldn't know, like kind of like past life experiences. And what this means is there's a very real chance that when somebody dies, they're like within the quantum realm of like it's some of their data essentially because knowledge is essentially data. It may intertwine itself with other people. A baby, somebody specifically people who are more likely to like babies who don't have experiences are more likely to have an imprint like this, and that's why some people when they get older will have visual real life experiences. And so I would say yes, there's a very real possibility. I wouldn't say like a the consciousness in the way you think of it. For instance, you'll be aware. I don't think that's logically essentially impossible unless we try to do that ourselves. It would be possible, quantum immortality, but it unfortunately would not work like that.
Yeah. As far as I
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, as far as I understand is that what's this? Because I was listening to this yesterday. Is that there's another version of myself out there that may have died in another situation in another timeline, and the consciousness has transferred to this timeline, and it'll just continue to do that, with matter and energy, and that right now, like my consciousness might have done this 500 times, but I don't know it because the only thing I'm experiencing is this one single life, and it's all I've ever known. So it's even if this is true, I guess I won't never really know that right now.
Yeah, and in terms of that consciousness, well, you think of it this way: your consciousness is what you're feeling now. If it's ever interrupted, and say for instance, you get your consciousness interrupted, and then you manifest as like a new body, and you have the same consciousness, you actually would not be the same person because of there's the way that it works and consciousness. Like I understand, it's a continuum. So consciousness has to be a continual experience. If you start a new experience, you protect. Once you stop that, the continuation, you no longer are the same being. And so I mean, because what you're saying essentially, well, if I've been conscious all the way till now, but I can't remember it, yeah, so that means you basically weren't alive that wasn't you. This is you. Then once you die, a new consciousness that will manifest itself in similar traits, almost identical to yours, if not identical, but it won't be you. And that is the profound part of the consciousness that's, no, unfortunately, this is it. Like from all, unless we're the first consciousness ever, then it most likely is it at this point because we would have some sort of continual experience if consciousness was true. But consciousness, because it's not just actions, it's actually the state of being aware. If you're not aware of the fact that you lived 500 lives, were you conscious then? Well, yeah, I was. No, you weren't, because you're not aware of it. The definition of consciousness is to be aware. So it's impossible to have consciousness that's continual, and or not possible in the way you're thinking of. Though there is infinite realities in terms of like layered realities, but they're not infinite realities in terms of we can interact. Like there's an exact replica of me interlaced directly in my same spot right now doing the same thing, itching their butt. No, it's that more likely there's other universes that because of how large and infinite it could be, that there are the same person doing the same activity within a different universe or at the end of time and space, like trillions of quintillions of billions of times most likely there probably is another version of me in some other universe, but the fact that it would be layered with mine, my theory of everything actually disproved, like, it's impossible. It literally is impossible to have layered realities that are identical to one another. You can have them outside of each other for sure, kind of like when they say, there's a bunch of marbles and then each universe is its own marble. Yep. And there's probably a version of you in one of those marbles, and it goes on infinitely, and then it goes on infinitely from there, and then infinitely upwards and down. Correct. Like, but people misunderstand the conscious part of, like, the continuum. And sadly, I wish it was true, but it's not. Unless we can figure out a way to harness it from this point on and keep that qualia, nope.
Yeah, from what I heard or understood yesterday is that it is my consciousness, but when it keeps transferring through the different timelines, it's not like that consciousness is able to recognize every individual experience that that consciousness has had. It's like it's kind of like another slate. That's why in that particular in that particular timeline, I only experience or only feel like I've only lived once, even though I could have, had several timelines. But I've just, to me, that consciousness only feels singular, even though it could have been just continually to transfer.
Yeah, and you're correct. It is a singular conscious. Like, I think that analysis is that it is, unfortunately, but it is both. So it's like, yeah, it's continual, but at the same time, because your qualia is interrupted, it's not. And it's like almost like a paradox, but it's unfortunate or fortunate if you don't want to live anymore.
Yeah, that just quantum immorality is called, and that's, I guess that's supposed to give some grounds to, I guess, what we, or is that basically reincarnation in a scientific type of presentation.
Yeah, it's it's interesting. And I'll say, when I say I've studied physics and these things and, like, quantum mechanics and everything, what it mainly refers to is the fact that I don't study things in the conventional sense of, let me memorize the Pythagorean theorem and cosine. That I think that is foolish. Math, like, I mean, I get it. If you're an expert in math, it's actually great. But in order to say that, you need, like, it's just, I lost my train of thought. Damn it. What was I saying at the start of it? I got distracted by my cat.
Something about Pythagorean theorem and something like that.
Okay. Oh, one more time though. Sorry, I didn't, like, little goobers trolling me in the chat.
Something about Pythagorean theorem or something like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So what I'm saying with mathematics, too often people say intelligence is knowledge. Like, what I mean by that is, so if you have a person who's studying quantum mechanics and he can list every single aspect of fucking strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, plus this, and then once it reaches a certain level of polarization, the electromagnetic field does, like, it makes people sound super smart. Don't get me wrong, like, they're, like, within their fields, it's very applicable. But once you go into, like, actually understanding what the fuck you're even talking about, those concepts aren't useful unless you plan on being somebody that's going to apply them. They're actually just useless information. What does quantum mechanics mean? What does gravity mean? What is the underlying foundations of what made us go to these conclusions? Why does quantum mechanics not fit within gravity? Wonder. And then I started just dissecting it and saying, so I'm noticing these relations, and then matter acts a certain way. And I'm not going to obviously, like, tell you the whole theory because I need to keep it secret till I get it posted. But essentially, I went into understanding the core concepts of math, quantum mechanics, they're both kind of like intertwined, science, philosophy, and then I used all of them. And I had to understand that, okay, I'm having a contradiction with my theory of everything. What the fuck is this shit? There shouldn't be contradictions. And then I had to understand what contradictions even mean. Wait, so the universe is infinitely expanding, but it's finite. So that's a contradiction. Well, yeah, no. I mean, it's infinite. Infinite means going on forever and ever, right? So, but it doesn't. It's finite. It's finite infinite. It's like, so what it means is, once I started studying contradictions and why humans cannot understand infinity, then I started understanding, holy shit, this is why. Because literally nobody can understand infinity even today. Like, they pretend to. They try to do thought experiments, but when you actually actually think of it, infinity isn't infinite. It's static. And this is a contradiction that nobody really understands. Wait, what do you mean? Infinite is static? What? Yeah, it's a static state. If something increases continually in a consistent manner, consistently, what does that mean? It is that thing. So if something just is always a piece of bread and constantly just keeps being a piece of bread forever and ever and infinitely expands into a piece of bread, it's a piece of bread. It's regardless of what you think, it's a static state. Its state is infinitely a piece of bread. It just keeps going, and it may get bigger, but it really is it getting bigger? Is it really like what does that mean? What is bigger? And then once you start looking into these, you start understanding why scientists are incapable of currently understanding the theory of everything, because they literally are operating within their silly little frameworks, and they hear, well, logic needs to explain everything, so does math, and everything needs to be an equation. As I said, are you telling me that you can measure a river while you're also freezing it at the same time? Like measure it flowing and while freezing it at the same time, please. Oh shit, I can't do that. Yeah, that's reality, buddy. It's evolving constantly. And yet we're trying to measure something that evolves and put an equation to it. And basically I've filled in a lot of the gaps on like the equation, everything. It's exciting. But I'll definitely post that Neon or Scott Neon. I'll like yeah, and I'll show you. I'm about to post a YouTube video, like I said, on Tuesday, and then I'm going to link my manifesto, my website, in the description, and kind of go from there. I'm very excited.
Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing it.
I'm glad, man. And if you could, when you do end up seeing it, if you like it, if you could share it, that'd be fucking fantastic. Because I'm basically going to be mass marketing it as soon as I post it, because like that's the best way, of course, to get my voice out there.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see what I think.
Oh yeah, bro, I'm excited. Just send me Well, actually, I have friend requests, or I'll just send it to all my friends. So I think I'll be able to send it to you.
Okay, that works.
Oh. The one thing I don't know why I'm getting so nervous. I mean, I kind of know why, because literally like everything's about to change in my life. But regardless, I'm I'm so nervous about recording the video because it's like, fuck. I know it's not that like crazy, but I just want to get it right and perfect. Because if this video is like quote unquote perfect, it would just be the start of everything. And even if it's not perfect, the problem is it might take a little longer, and I just want to speed run it as fast as possible, because most revolutions in terms of thought take 20 plus years. Oh my God, Scott! I'll tell you one part about my theory, though. I'll tell you one. You know emergence?
No, the word. What are you referring to?
A phenomenon where there's a lack of complexity and something organizes itself into higher complexity.
I'm not familiar with that.
Well, basically, like rocks turning into life, like life emerging from something that was considered fundamentally different from the thing that is now present.
Would that apply to like bacteria turning into life eventually, or?
Yeah, like I mean, emergence essentially, yeah, or like how bacteria, enough single cells end up emerging as a different organism. That'd be considered an emergent phenomenon. Do you believe in that, or do you think it's a lack of understanding?
I haven't heard about it before. I mean, there's some basis for it. Certainly, the more single cell organisms you have together, the more they operate like they're not single cell organisms anymore. So I can understand that. I don't know if we have any scientific proof, though.
Yeah, well, for instance, like fireflies. If you look at fireflies and the way that the communication works, they end up like they'll be off. They don't have any built-in mechanism that teaches them to like, hey, you need to all think together. But then they start doing that. Or for instance, superconductors. If you look at superconductors, they'll start organizing themselves without any energy being put in anything. They start organizing themselves in a certain manner, and then they consider that like an emergent or like intelligent phenomenon.
Interesting. Okay.
And so essentially, like here, I'll try to show you. Like you haven't heard of emergence, really? Like I'm curious.
No, not in this context.
Okay, well, like, so in science, the appearance of a novel or complex behaviors or properties in a system that aren't present in the individual components arising from their collective interactions. Biology, physics, social sciences, like everything that they, like things have been considered, like, for instance, the West water, the folding of proteins, the evolution of life on Earth, the formation of galaxies and stars, flocking behavior of birds, or like the development of consciousness in an infant. A lot of these phenomena, they say, are like emergent qualities. And this is a thing where emergence doesn't exist. It is literally, like, I always thought it was dumb because of the fact that it literally is just like it's a stopgap. It's like, this is emergence, and that's it. It's like, what does that mean? Well, it's more complex than it was. What caused that? Emergence. But what is emergence? Being more, like, it was just a never-ending circle that nobody was ever able to explain. Like, well, life just kind of emerged. It's like, there's some other mechanism here. And so I proved how emergence, like, we have verifiable evidence, like, with scientific empiricism, that emergence is true, like, it exists. The formation of galaxies is the best empirical evidence that we have of emergence. Is with how random, physically, like how random the universe is, it should be impossible. Like, galaxies should look different. They should spiral in different like, they should be completely different from one another. But when you look, even given the same laws of physics, they literally should be different. But when you look at it, they are all not very similar. They're all basically identical in terms of their structure. In terms of, like, galaxies, a super black hole in the middle of this, like, there's a sun. And what it leads to is, okay, there's emergence in the universe itself in so many places that we just don't, like, where is this coming from? Like, what the fuck? Like, things that are not complex are somehow becoming complex. This doesn't make sense. And I filled in the gap for this. And this is how my theory of everything quite literally is empirically proven. Because we empirically prove emergence. So now I just need to fill in the gap, and I did. And then I plugged in every single other fundamental law based off of my filling in of the gap, and they all work. And so what it led to is, holy shit, since I figured this, I reverse engineered the scientific method, where usually people post a theory and then they have empirical data and peer review. I did the opposite. I looked at already peer-reviewed empirical research, and then I filled in the gaps that they didn't understand. And then I built a theory off of that.
Wait, non-linear? Non-linear?
What's up?
I think it's just better off if I ask, because I feel like if I wait 5 minutes, I'm still not gonna know. What are you talking about? Like, what conversation is this? What's the topic?
It's just the origins of the universe, things like that. Theory of everything.
Just the origins of the universe, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
Nothing too complex. Just how every discipline, from science, philosophy, quantum mechanics, gravity, relativity, all this shit, it all intertwines with one another, but scientists currently have not been able to find a framework that unifies them all.
Bro, I don't understand all that. Chill out. I'm just a photon. I was born yesterday, okay? Just use your okay.
I get you. And I'm just so excited for it. They're like, oh my god. Nervous and excited.
Oh my god.
Wait, is this your first time debating?
See, these people think they're so wise, and the scriptures speak about being wise.
Nah, so your second time, you're going straight to the cosmos.
Scriptures speak about the wisdom of man and how he
We should start talking
took
about
the simple things to confound the wise in the scripture.
why the
And then
universe
these
exists.
people, typically, as you're listening to,
Why?
will reject
Science explains how the
scripture and
universe exists and operates,
belief
but
therein.
not the why. You would need
God.
religion to explain why.
No, that's a complete lie.
Not you saying that science is gonna explain the why. No way, that's what you sound like, bro. Oh my, you're cooked.
I didn't say science was gonna explain the why.
So you're saying we don't need a why?
Yes.
Oh my.
So the thing of it this way, if something has always existed and there's
if you have a beginning, you need a cause. God doesn't have a beginning, so that means he doesn't need a cause.
So wait, you just said that God doesn't have a beginning, so he doesn't need a cause. The universe doesn't have a beginning, so it doesn't need a cause. Boom. Same argument.
The universe does have a beginning.
No, the Big Bang is just an event. It's not at the beginning. Yes, they think it is, but oh my god, that's why I like my theory of everything. They think it's the beginning, but it's not actually the Big Bang.
You know better, right? You know better, right?
I mean, given my theory of
trolling though, right? You're trolling. Okay, go ahead and explain it. I'll entertain this idea. Go on.
No, I'm publishing it on Tuesday. You can look at once it publishes.
Oh, so you haven't published your theory of everything?
I've been verifying it empirically, and then now.
Hey, listen, this is your chance to tell it to me before you publish it. I can save you from embarrassment.
I'm good, my man.
All right, up to you. Up to you.
No, I don't.
Hey, where are you publishing it at? Where are you publishing it at?
On my own website, on YouTube, Twitter, Reddit,
Can you show it to me?
Medium.com.
Where it's gonna be?
No. I'll show you once I release it.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm saying like what the channel is, the YouTube
No,
channel,
I don't.
what the website is.
No, I'm not gonna show you until I have it.
That's mad suspicious. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna. I
think of it this way. Everybody.
I think you're capping.
Cool. Like I said, Tuesday you can come back in 2 days and tell me I'm capping. I don't care.
So Tuesday you're gonna DM it to me?
No, that's when I'm posting it, and then if you add me, then I guess sure I'll DM it to you.
No, I know you're gonna post it. You just said you did. You just said you will. But I'm saying, how am I gonna access it? I'm asking you to give me the means to access your website so I can see your theory. Unless you don't want me to see it. Is that the case?
Well, the thing is, I haven't published my website. I'm saving because once I'm publishing everything at the same time. Like you don't understand how big of a deal this is, so I can't expect you to. But the thing is when you are creating a theory that is explaining everything.
I wouldn't be asking to see your website if it wasn't a big deal.
I know. I'm just saying,
wouldn't be asking to see.
True.
Huh?
My point. So I guess I misphrased. I didn't mean to sound rude. What I mean is like I'm saying you would understand that it's such a big deal to the point I have to be secret till I post it because there literally is. Why would I want to compromise the chance of somebody stealing it? Whatever. Even though it's unlikely, I still have to look at every possibility.
Every possibility?
Yes, because I operate. That's how I figured out the theory of everything. I don't literally it's every possibility. You can't just sit there and look at it from if I post it, then nothing's gonna happen. Let me not worry. No, you have to sit here, and if you're not ready to post it completely and start the movement, if you publish it on a peer-reviewed research, journals have been known, or peer-reviewed or certain scientific places where you can post whatever, depending on which one you're looking at. They've been known to steal shit, specifically for people who don't have a name for themselves. So once I post it on YouTube, once I post it online, it will be impossible for them to steal it because it's time-stamped. Once they see, wait, there's no theory of everything, and all of a sudden there's a theory of everything, and it explains everything right here. When did that happen? Oh, here's a YouTube video. Oh, there's a website. Oh, this is all published at the exact same time, right when this theory came out, and it's from the same exact guy. Damn, most likely it's him as opposed to all these other people trying to copy it. And that's why I'm doing it, because even if I gave you the website, even if I gave you the PDF, whatever, it's just, no, it's not worth it. You might think it is, but trust me, I can wait 2 days. Like, there's one extra view isn't exactly going to change the world of the theory of everything, trust me. Even 100, it's literally it's that big, so we'll see. Does that make sense, Realm?
I mean, I would rather get the schematics behind it.
Yeah, in 2 days you shall, buddy. You shall.
That's if you DM it to me. I don't think you will.
If you add me, or you can message me or do whatever.
I don't add people on Discord. There's hackers here. I'll DM you though.
Okay, folks, that was the discussion of the Ten Commandments. And the person by the name of Supernova, I'm not sure if he really realized the conflict or contradiction he was in. He was saying that Christ abolished the Ten Commandments, but you still have Christ still teaching the Ten Commandments in the New Testament. And then he admitted that it was being fulfilled. And there are several passages, scriptures, that teach that those laws were being fulfilled. And he asked the question of if it can be both, or if because he took, I believe, to the scripture of John 13 about a new commandment, but the new commandment, it didn't say now the other commandments are gone or don't exist. So the question I would have or was going to ask is, does this new commandment contradict those other commandments? And if you're going to say it is contradicting, and now we run into other conflicts with what we just read in the book of Matthew. So it's like I said, I don't believe the person really knew or really understood or really saw the conflict that he was walking into. Likewise with the same-sex marriage issue, the person wasn't really sure or really confident on knowing where to stand or where the scriptures stand on that. So that was pretty much that topic there. As far as the other stuff and the science stuff, that's pretty much what's going on a tangent or going on a going at length in that. So pretty much new people were coming into the room, and it Supernova and quite a few of the other individuals, or at least Supernova, they exited. But yeah, the question of, well, can you have, we're here, it says there in John 13, this new commandment, and now can you can you have those other commandments exist along with that? And the other person by the name of was Poster Coaster, he think he said both of us was right. Well, Supernova was saying that the old commandments, the 10 commandments of the Old Testament were no more. But as you play it back and listen, Supernova ran into much inconsistency. And he acknowledged what in the book of Matthew, what was said there. So if you're going to say, well, if you're going to say that's still there and that's still in place, and how is that abolished? See, the question comes into about, well, what is the scripture referring to when it says abolished? And that's what I thought one of the questions that Supernova was going to ask, because what was abolished, that was explained in Ephesians 2, but it didn't say the 10 commandments. And I tried to explain that you don't keep the, you're not under the law, you don't follow the law just as you, a person, individual, following the law. I went into about the following the Spirit and the Spirit leading you, but the Spirit is what? Holy. And the law is holy. So the law is still being fulfilled. He came not to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. So that's what it was there.